Hello students! Today we're going to learn about variables and memory allocation and the assignment operator. Now let's unpack this word right here. Memory allocation. What does that mean? It means finding a location for my memory, right? That's what computers work on with memory. And finally, the assignment operator. What does that mean? An operator is like a symbol, like plus, minus. In this case, it's used to give assignment or assigning memory space to memory. And we'll learn more about that. Don't let that scare you. Now, by the end of this lesson, I will understand what a variable is. We don't know what that is, but it has to do with memory, I'll tell you that. I will know how to store data using a variable. I will know how to use the assignment operator. Well, how do you store data? By using the assignment operator, which is an equal sign. I will know how to change the value of a variable. So how do we change memory values? So let's just do an overview. You have memory in your head, and then there's computer memory, and it differs quite significantly. But let's just talk about, this class is in a biology class, you learn about how memory is stored in the human brain. But in a computer class, that's what we'll be focusing on. This is a RAM drive, if you're interested. Anyway, we'll use memory like a box. So let's assume you have to remember a bunch of things. All of these things represent your memory. And I can always retrieve a memory by looking in a box. You ever look into an old box and then suddenly these memories come to you? Well, think about memory as a place to store, think of a box as a place to store your memory. And a computer kind of works like that. But what if you have so many memories and you want to find out where the memory is stored? That's where labeling comes in. So I can find kitchen supplies here, dishes here, books in here, and basically you store memory in a box, basically. And that's what variables are. Variables are how memory is stored. Variables have a name and a data type. When we want to store data, when we want to remember something, what are we remembering? We're remembering data. And data will have, the place where I store it will be the name, and then you'll have the actual data. Okay, so let's see how to do this. But before we do that, let's do a bit of review. So go over this question. What is the difference between the literals 4 and 4.0? You got A, nothing, they are both 4. B, nothing, they are different types, which doesn't matter when programming. C, 4.0 is an integer and 4 is a float data type. C, 4 is an integer and 4.0 is a floating point number. And finally, E, 4 is an integer and 4.0 is a string. Now pause the video if you don't already know the answer and try and think about it. Try and use this thing right here. If you can try and remember, go back and see the video. If not, just unpause in a minute. Okay, if you've thought about it by now, what is the difference between 4 and 4.0? Well, they're both the same. So nothing is technically wrong, because the difference, if you think of it as a math question, nothing is a difference when you subtract 4 from 4.0. They are both 4. That is kind of true, but we want to select the best answer. They are different types, which doesn't matter in programming. Unfortunately, this statement is wrong. It does matter. 4.0 is an integer and 4 is a float data type. Now, if you remember from our notes, float, an integer is numeric values and decimal numbers is a float. So D is the correct answer. 4 is an integer and 4.0 is a floating point number. So if you selected D, give yourself a pat on the back. You are correct. Now let's move on a little bit. Sorry, ignore that for a second. So let's get to programming. A variable, let's make a comment. Whoops. Variables. A variable is a name that refers to a value. The value, the variable name, can be anything. Or can be arbitrary, which means random. Arbitrary/random. Except, here are some rules. Names cannot start with a number or special character. And variables let us store what we will call as remember values, things I want to remember. So we can use them over and over. Kind of like if you ask the user, what is your name? And you want to use it over and over on each page that's opened. It has to have a place to remember it. So, like variables are kind of like math variables. In math, you can say let x equals 5. But they're also a little bit different. So let's just take a look. How do you do it? You go variable equals value, and you use something called the assignment statement. So to create a variable, you use the assignment operator. And how does that work? Well, let's just do it over here. So I can say something like my number, oops, there we go. Number is my variable name equals 5. And if I want to print number, it's going to say 5. I can even do an expression where it says number equals 4 plus 5. And if I print number, by the way, I can press the up key to just print the last statement that I did. 4 plus 5 is 9. So number takes on the value. What happened to this 5? Well, it's disappeared forever. Because this is a memory spot called number. Remember how we talked about boxes? You can think of a box, and the label on the box is called number. And what I put in the box is this 5. So this assignment operator takes whatever this side is and throws it into this number box. It evaluates this first and then throws everything on the other side of the equal sign into number. And that's how assignment variables are formed. So we'll do a few exercises to see if you understand it. We're at 9 minutes now. So let's do the first one and pause if you need a second to think. So not yet. What is the value of x after the execution of this code? X equals 45. X equals x minus 5. X equals 15. Is the answer 50, 20, 40, 15, or 10? Pause the video. Okay, now that you've had time to think about it, let's look at this value. It says x equals 45. Then what happens here? This is how you retrieve a variable. We didn't see this before, of how you can use another value over here. Like x is 45, it retrieves, it's trying to find what x is. X is 45, subtract 5 from it. What's 45 minus 5? Well, the answer is 40. It takes the 40, stores it in this x. And then it says x equals 15. So x keeps changing. We keep assigning this, then this to x, and then this to x. So at the end of it, The answer is D, 15 is correct. And if you want to try it, you can write it over here. Now, if you want to clear the screen, you can do that. And you can say x equals 45. X equals x minus 5. What's x now? It's 40. But if I say x equals 15, what's x? Print. By the way, in the console, I can just do x and it'll show the value. Okay. And the answer is 15 because the last line, what did I do? What does this line actually do? It takes 15 and throws it in x. Now, if you want, you can take a minute to see why would someone pick 50? Well, maybe they think this is a mathematical equation. It does not work like math, where this side has to equal that side. It's taking whatever's on the right side and putting it on the left side. Let's do this last one. We have another minute left before it hits 12 minutes. What is the value of y after the execution of this code? So x equals 45. So let's write that. X equals 45. Sorry, it says what's the value of y? Y doesn't get assigned past here. X equals 45, throws x. Y equals whatever this is. And then we change x. So at the end of this, x is going to equal 15. It asks, what's y? Pause the video and see. And now that you've paused the video and you have your answer, the answer is 45. Y is equal to whatever this is. What happens here is x retrieves 45 as a value and adds 5 to it and stores it in y. So the answer is 50. And if we want to check that, y equals x plus 5. Well, what's y? The answer is 50. And that's all we know. That's all we have on variables.